Hey guys, it's Kiana. Let's talk about it with Q. I'm listening. Good morning out there to all my listeners. I hope everyone's having a great one so far. If not, take a deep breath, let it out, and just smile. It's going to be a good show today. The subject we'll be talking about at times has caught a lot of flack throughout history, but I think the stigma, much like many others, has slowly started to fade away. We're going to be discussing hypnosis and its effects on mental illness, along with its many other beneficial factors can play on the body. I'd like to welcome Mr. Rasheed Edwards, or AKA Coach Edwards, which I heard a lot on Facebook. He's the writer of his own book called Mental Health Matters. He also teaches his own intro to hypnosis and mind mastery classes. Welcome, Rasheed. How are you doing today?
I'm outstanding and thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for asking.
Yes. It's great to be here.
Well, good. Well, I'd love to first jump into this book you've written. Can you tell us what it's about? I don't want to assume that it's only about hypnosis.
Well, actually, the truth of the matter is that the book isn't about hypnosis at all, but it's a book um, to help the layperson or the average person understand some of the basics about mental health and potentially get some idea of what mental health looks like, whether it be good or bad or degrading mental health, and then
Yeah.
what are some of the I guess some of the keys to understanding how you're doing mentally and whether or not you may be in need of help. And so it's just a kind of a primer, just giving some of the basics to help people conceptualize mental health better.
Okay. All right. That sounds really interesting. And how long ago did you put this book out?
I think I put it out 2 years ago. Um, and that's my third book, but I think I put that one out 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 2020.
Okay. And what are you two other books out, you said?
So my other books are The Secret Commitment, which is a self-help book. And
Okay.
the interesting thing about that book is that I've started saying it now, but I wasn't saying it when I first put it out. But it's kind of a one of those things that helps people take some of the things that they may have learned or may not have learned about the law of attraction and put into concrete, practical ways of
Yeah.
making the law of attraction work for them. So it's a self help book. And then my other book, Seeds of Growth, is my companion book to The Secret Commitment and a book that I coach from.
Oh, okay.
And my first ever book was an ebook called Inner Voyage Journey to the Universe of Self. And so that's an ebook. That's another book. So yeah, I've got a total of four, and I'll be doing probably two more books. A book on trauma.
That's awesome. Where would we be able to find all these books on Amazon?
Yep, you can find them on Amazon. You could also find them on RashidEdwards.com.
Okay. All right. Well, um I really love to first jump into the hypnosis, it now that you've started your own intro to hypnosis and mastery class, let's jump in with the main questions I'm sure everyone would like to know. For starters, what is hypnosis?
What is hypnosis? Well, I love that question. Hypnosis is, let's look at, you know, I like to call it the cheat codes to life.
Okay.
What I mean is, like, we all have different challenges, problems, and things that we're dealing with, right? We all have dreams, desires, goals, and things of that nature. And so hypnosis is kind of like the cheat codes. So for someone like me, pushing 50, I've become a little less resilient, or I'm not as capable, maybe, in handling certain things as maybe I was when I was in my 20s. And
Yeah.
so, someone like myself who might be a little stuck in his ways, perhaps, or just a little older and dealing with different challenges, going to a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist is an excellent way to kind of hit the reset button on certain things. So
Oh,
like with anxiety, we can, go in a session of hypnosis and hit the reset button so that a person will clear out some of those issues that are causing anxiety. I deal with trauma. And so, in short, hypnosis, like I said, is like having the cheat codes to life. But if I describe it a little better, it's kind of using your mind in a more effective way to connect you with your internal resources.
okay.
How about I just say hypnosis is a quick way of making you better, however you'd like to be better.
I like that. That sounds really good. That sounds very good. So, how does it work exactly?
So this is how it works. We experience certain brainwave frequencies throughout different parts of our day. So if someone were to look up um, your waking brainwave frequency, they'll say it's a beta frequency, and it might be anywhere from like 34 hertz a cycle to about the bandwidth is like 34 to about 14, something like that, give
Yeah.
or take. And so hypnosis, what it does is it takes us out of that higher frequency, out of the beta, and it drops us down to alpha and theta. And so somewhere between alpha and theta is the sweet spot. And so what I do is I take you through a bunch of not a whole lot, but I take you through several movements, mental movements and exercises, and it causes you to do two main things. It causes you to focus and it causes you to relax. And so as
Okay.
I move you through those different exercises, you'll eventually get to a place where your mind is ripe for suggestion. And so I'll test to know that you're there based upon different things. But once I've gotten you in that state, then you're able to receive suggestion. And that's really what hypnosis is making you better by giving you trance state hypnotic suggestions. And
Yeah.
during the trance state, you're more open to it.
Wow, that's really interesting. So what would be one of the really reasons why people should use it?
Like I said, if you've got goals and there are things that you want to achieve, but you feel like you're stuck or you're just not able to get to that space, whatever it may be, something might be holding you back. And
Yeah.
so you have this feeling, right? That I know that if I do whatever, it will take me to the next level. That's one of the things that you would do. Or how about someone who's experienced emotional and psychological trauma?
Yeah.
That's one of my bigger platforms, right? And so I'm a certified trauma professional.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I help people overcome the symptoms of trauma. And so oftentimes, and I just had a client about a month ago come in, and the client told me, she said, I was told that, over the next 10 to 15 years, I need to kind of settle in and get used to this, that the trauma, my PTSD wasn't going anywhere.
Mm,
And I was like, wow, okay, well, glad you're here because you don't have to live with this condition for the remainder of your life. And
yeah.
so I help people bypass it. Well, not bypass. I help people resolve the symptoms of trauma.
Okay.
So, you're talking about helping someone resolve those symptoms to where they don't have flashbacks anymore. They can be comfortable in their own skin. They're not overwhelmed by a situation. They have more space, more mental capacity to be able to think and
Wow.
process things versus being triggered and react to things.
So you kind of help them overcome it mentally.
Yes. Hmm.
Wow, that's really, really, really neat.
I do.
So who would you say uses hypnosis out of, I mean, so is hypnosis something that's used a lot nowadays?
Yeah. I've got quite a few clients actually, and this last 4 or 5 years for me has been a boom for my business. Whereas 15 years ago, I couldn't even talk to people about hypnosis. It was kind of like, no,
Yeah.
that's the devil, or that's
Yeah.
voodoo, or witchcraft, or all types of different things. But the truth, right? The truth is hypnosis So let me just kind of break it down. Hypnosis is synonymous to trance.
Okay.
Okay, so what is a trance? A trance is something we experience every day. In fact,
Exactly.
80% of our day is spent going in and out of light trances.
You're
But it's
right.
like daydreaming, right?
Yeah.
Then we
A
have,
lot of us are on autopilot most of the day.
yes, absolutely. And so we have lighter trances, lighter than, just daydreaming. So, for instance, as I talk to you, undoubtedly what's happening in your mind is working to make pictures, images, and pull in things that relate to what I'm saying because it helps you make sense of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you're in a light trance because you're not aware of everything else that's going on around you. And so again, like you mentioned it, doing things on autopilot, that's
Yep.
a big sign that you're experiencing a trance. Highway hypnosis. You
Oh yeah,
the road.
that's what it's called. My boyfriend and I could not remember the name of it, and we were
Yeah,
talking about it, and people were, and even like dozing off while you're doing it.
yeah. And well,
Yeah.
now the sleep part, that's a big danger.
Yeah, definitely.
But highway hypnosis, or different things that you do where you just lose pockets of time, and it's like, wow, I, how did I get here? Or I didn't realize this much time had passed. And so,
Yeah, like you leave your job, you pull out, and then all of a sudden you're home.
yeah, it's a natural state. And so, all I do is I take that light trance and I expand it until I get to a workable space where now we're at a place where now you're right. Your brain is kind of slowed down. You're in a state of deep enough trance where you're focused and yet you're relaxed. And in that space, this is where I do my work and this is where the magic happens. But
Oh.
literally, I'm not doing anything that's not something that you naturally do. So I don't come into a session with technology. I don't come into a session with anything other than the notes, my pen and paper, because we discuss where the session is going to go,
Yeah.
and my voice, my spirit, my energy, what the
Yeah.
creator is in me. I just come as myself, you come as you are, and then we work. But the real deal is that really I'm just a guide. You're doing the work.
Yeah, you're kind of a guide.
Yeah. And so, the question I ask people is, would you do something wrong to yourself?
No.
Not knowingly, not intentionally,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so I can't lead you down a path that you won't walk. This is just
Very true.
your mind. So it's not
Very true.
mind control, as many people are concerned. It's not mind control. It's not voodoo. It's not witchcraft. It's not any
Yeah.
of those. It's a very natural state that we've been divinely blessed with. And so many celebrities, many wealthy and well to do people use this. If you go on one of my sites, I talk about it and I name a whole list of celebrities, anywhere from Kelly Rowland to Matt Damon, Samuel Jackson,
Oh, okay.
Ellen DeGeneres, is Tiger Woods. Um, I mean, it's such an extensive list, and anyone could look it up. Celebrities who have done
Yeah.
hypnosis, and it'll just pull up, and you'll be like, "Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know people were doing that," and it's been going on. There was actually a time, right, in the earlier, I guess, late 1800s or closer to the early 1900s, late 1800s, when
Yeah.
holistic practices were acceptable and hypnosis was actually a part of a dentist coursework for becoming a dentist.
Oh, wow.
And so again, prior to the advent of the AMA and some of these other institutions that became regulating bodies,
Yeah.
certain holistic practices were acceptable, and hypnosis was considered one of
It
those.
was one of them.
And so, since the advent of all of these different regulating bodies, now we have socially become a little more unnerved by hypnosis, but
Yeah.
it's very natural.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. I think we have become unnerved from it because I do remember stigma of it, or they like to incorporate it with comedy, and like, making somebody do something like you said under control. And I think that it's kind of shied away from that kind of stigma now. It's more, especially with it affecting the mental health community, and
Mm.
it's being brought into the mental health community, because I had never, not until I had stumbled upon your page, that it dawned on me, wow, wait a second, mental health and hypnotherapy, that would probably really like be beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. Now it still isn't as acceptable or as saturated in the mental health community
Yeah,
as
it's still new there.
for it too. So, for instance, when I was in grad school, I actually had instructors who told me that they didn't think hypnosis was evidence based. And the funny thing is, right, the American Psychological Association, um, two or three of the members of the executive board, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, wrote a book on hypnosis and its efficacy. And
Really?
so here I am going through grad school, and I've got instructors telling me, oh, no, that's not a real thing. Hypnosis isn't real. We don't do that. Wow. The APA has executive members who have actually written a book about the efficacy of it. And so that's just kind of how things are. But what has been helpful is that what are these shows called nowadays? Reality TV has brought it into the public light now. It's
Yes.
because people see reality stars doing it. Now they're more amenable to it. And so now
Yes.
I have people reaching out and they're like, oh, okay, you do hypnosis. And it's kind of like, you think I could do it? They don't want anyone to know that they're interested.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
You might be able to help me. Sure, I can help. Let's talk about what your needs are.
That is very, very true. Now, in part of your class, it's, you said, into, you'll show an intro into hypnosis and a mind mastery class. So what exactly is a mind mastery class? Like, what is the mind and how can you master the mind?
So the mind. In my hypnosis training, we even in my so and I'm making a point to say this, right? Hypnosis and my hypnosis training has taught me more about the mind than my formal schooling, my grad school, my actual degree in clinical mental
Yeah.
counseling. And so we learn certain things about the mind. And so what I do in my intro to hypnosis and mind mastery is I point out things about the mind, how the mind works, helping people to understand how they're behaving and what how it reflects on their mind and where they are mentally. And
Yeah.
talk about the three main parts of the mind: your conscious, your subconscious, and your critical faculty. And I only point that out because as a hypnotist, understanding these three main parts, I know that when the session starts, I'm dealing with your conscious mind, but I'm trying to get beneath the surface and bypass the critical faculty so that I can get into the subconscious.
Yeah.
So if you've ever heard the saying that the average person only uses 5 to 10% of their capacity,
Yeah.
what that refers to is something that is commonly known by hypnotists, is that typically most people are moving and behaving and acting from the space of their conscious mind. And the conscious
Oh,
mind is only capable of giving you 5 to 10% of what's possible.
gotcha.
So your willpower, your logic, your rationale, and your short-term memory are the components of your conscious mind.
Okay.
The subconscious mind is the powerhouse. That's where that 90 to 95% resides. Your
Oh
emotions,
gosh.
your habit patterns, your behaviors, your imprinting.
That's a big old chunk.
Yeah, your long term memory. Nothing is ever lost. Everything that you've ever experienced is recorded in the annals of your subconscious mind. And so all of this stuff beneath the surface. So we look at hypnosis the same way we look at an iceberg, right? Your
Yeah.
conscious mind is the part that sticks out above the water, and that's what people see. But it's the part, all of that landscape under, or all of the ice, or everything that's beneath the water, That's the larger part of what drives our behaviors, and that is the powerhouse. And so that's the part that we hypnotists and hypnotherapists deal with, the subconscious, because it's the powerhouse.
Wow. So you guys go deep,
Yeah.
deep in there. So now, um, it seems to be that some other things that you said you work on also is hypnosis and emotional challenges. Could
Hmm.
you explain that a little bit more in depth?
Yes. So in my class, right, I get into how we're at our core, we are energy. And
Yes.
so everything is energy.
Oh, definitely.
And
It's constant.
I use the analogy that our bodies are like musical instruments, and I use the analogy of the piano. So when you strike a note on it, when you hit a key on a piano, it hits a chord and it reverberates a sound, and
Yeah.
sound kind of reverberates for a minute and then it dissipates, right? That's
Yeah.
how we're supposed to be in terms of how we experience emotions. We'll have an emotion and we'll feel it some type of way and then it'll pass through.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have more difficult emotions, and because of how difficult they may be or because of what we may be going through at the time, it can be a little different. And it's kind of like when you hit the note on the piano key and then you press the pedal under the piano, that extends the note out.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of is how we experience the difficult emotions that kind of traumatize us, or just severe emotions that are severe enough that they trigger us. And because they're energy, they lodge themselves in our bodies. And so it's not just a psychological, but it's also a physiological experience.
Yeah.
And so, as a hypnotherapist, I'm able to help people resolve and release those emotions. So, it's not uncommon for someone to come out of a hypnotic experience and say, wow, my body feels so much lighter and so much looser, because you're releasing and you're resolving these things at a core level. And so,
Yeah.
differently.
Wow. That sounds like something I need. Very much so. um, and then another thing I know is hypnosis and personal energy management.
Yeah. So, I like to talk about how one of the things about hypnosis is that it's able to bypass a lot of the settings, the settings that we have from our imprinting. And I say settings like I'm talking about technology. Like you might have default settings on your computer or
Yeah.
your TV or what have you. And so we have some settings that were set on our mental template from our imprinting phase. And that phase goes from birth to about 5, 6, or 7 years old.
Okay.
And so, but in terms of our energy, right? One of the things that I'll say about our energy is that according to those settings, we might have different things in place. And so we only, much like our cell phones, we start our day with a finite amount of energy. And
Yes.
so different settings from our imprinting might be, or let's not say settings, but different applications, right? Like your iPhone. If you swipe up, you'll notice that you've got a bunch of applications that are still running in the background that haven't been closed.
Mm-hmm.
Same with us. We've had so many experiences in life that we've got these emotional and psychological programs running in the background of our minds that
Wow. Yeah.
energy. And so when you start your day with X amount of energy, you may very well be bleeding off a large amount of that energy because you haven't dealt with, resolved, and released these difficult
Yeah.
emotions. And so that's a large part of what I do is I help people release this stuff. And so this is why
Wow.
they feel so much better. This is why they have these seemingly miraculous reports about how they feel. It feels like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could feel that way. I didn't know I could get past this.
Yeah.
You can.
So now, all right. So I am somebody who, all right. So I've grown up having a lot of mental illnesses. I grew up having anxiety, ADHD. They found out I was bipolar, and I have borderline personality disorder. So I've been and I'm on medication, and I'm actually going to be entering a program next week called it's called an IOP program. It's a in intensive outpatient program.
Right.
So from like 9:30 to 12:30 Monday through Friday, I'll go and I'll get like meditation, group therapy, and like CBT therapy or something like that. Just because for myself and in my life, I'm a mother and I'm also my mother's caretaker. I have a lot going on, and it's everything's starting to weigh heavily on me. So it's time to get myself that extra step of help. Now, they're going to teach me meditation, and I have been someone, my brain, like, I always explain that I have a hummingbird brain and a butterfly stomach. That's what it sounds. That's how I feel all the time. Like everything's all the time. So I wonder how I am going to stay still and stay slow for meditation, but I would love to try hypnosis, but would that work on me? Am I somebody whose brain is moving too fast for that kind of thing?
Um, let's see.
Like, does it work on everybody or
Well, so you don't experience psychosis, right? You're not.
no?
Okay. So the main requirements are that you are able to be present mentally, and that you have enough mental capacity to be able to understand as I'm speaking. So I deal with a lot of people who have, in fact, it's something that I did in my class. So I've been doing this about 17 years. So
Oh
in my
wow.
last class, I invited an individual that I worked with when I first started hypnosis. And I wasn't able to hypnotize her as she didn't feel like she went into hypnosis. It was very
Yeah.
long, okay. And so she's the only client that I ever had that experience that they just
Yeah.
didn't like they were hypnotized. So I did a demonstration with her in the class and I hypnotized her. She's a person who, one of the things that she said right away, I have trouble relaxing. My mind is always working. I can't stop my brain from thinking. Not a problem. This is not uncommon for me. When I
Yeah.
first started out, I didn't know that there were people who I now consider hyper rational, people whose minds, they just run so much. They're always trying to figure out something before it happens, trying to anticipate
Yes.
all of that type stuff. And so I had to develop my skill set. And so as I learned, over the course of, like I said, I've been doing this 17 years. And so as I learned different skills and techniques, I understood, oh, okay, this is why it didn't work for her as well as it would have.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do to get her into, a more suitable state. And so the other night she was just shocked because she literally was sure that she would not be hypnotized. And I was certain, I wouldn't bring her before my class if I didn't know I could do it.
Yeah.
But I knew I could because I understand the mechanics a lot better now. And I understand like these things just happen. It's almost mathematical. When you create certain conditions, you'll be able to achieve certain states. It
Yeah.
just is. And because I've trained, I've learned, and I understand this, I'm able to produce this. So it can work for someone who has a moving or a fast paced brain, or someone who is always thinking and can't turn that off. It can work. It can work, and I make it work. Now, I will say that I typically like to do those clients in person, but I do them virtually as well.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Okay, yeah, that was gonna be my next question is right now because I know with your classes it said in person on there, but I wasn't sure whether or not you did virtual stuff too right now.
yes, I do. I do. I actually was in a group on Facebook a few weeks ago, and it just shocked me how many people were interested in hypnosis. And I ended up picking up 3 clients from
Oh, wow.
corresponding with people on that thread. So when
Yeah.
I tell you, like, people are becoming more open to it, I've just not had these types of experiences. And so it's a blessing, to be able to have that experience and see that I could talk to people and help them conceptualize hypnosis a little bit better and then be open to having the experience. And so in my class, people were able to see what I do. And so after it was over, they were able to see what I was doing and see the effects. And so then I asked them, okay, so now how do you feel about it? Do you feel like some of your misconceptions were, you know, warranted, or do you feel like they were just off base? And they were like, wow, I had no idea that this is what
Yeah,
hypnosis.
change their tune.
And so then I had the subject speak, right? And she was like, okay, so I didn't know. She's like, well, I thought I was going to be asleep and I didn't know that I'd be able to hear you. And that was kind of making me feel like maybe it wasn't going right. Um, so she was like, because I could, at times I would hear you, and then at times my mind would just be running and I'd be thinking something. I said, but if you remember in the first class, I described what hypnosis would be like. And I
Yeah.
tell people it's kind of like if you've ever been in a boring class in high school or something, right?
Yeah.
You find yourself just kind of drifting off, your attention just kind of wanders, and then you're like, oh, let me focus, let me focus. Uh, okay, let me
Oh,
focus.
so maybe that would work for me because I do that a lot.
And that's what the experience in hypnosis is going to be like. And so at a certain point, I tell people you can choose to try to pay attention and listen to me, or you can just allow yourself to continue to drift off as I have a monologue with your subconscious mind. And that's kind of at a certain point, once I've gotten to that saturation point, then that's what happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, so who would you say was your biggest influencer or supporter to get the ball rolling on this whole thing many years ago?
My biggest support, probably my wife. She was
Oh,
my,
that's awesome.
and so yeah, she's my biggest support for getting the ball moving, because she's known, I got this weird husband. He needs something to do with himself. Please get it. But no, in all honesty, she's been a big support and pushing me to fulfill this dream. And for me, right, helping people is really my assignment. It's my purpose. I've known
Yeah,
for many years. And just in the last 7 or 8 years have I actually come to accept and answer the call. Because when I was younger, I just felt it was too overwhelming. My experiences with people were a lot different than my experiences with friends. So, for
yeah,
instance, people would come to me and tell me things that they wouldn't tell other people. So, when I talk to my friends, I would ask, do you have these experiences? And my friends would be like, nah, nobody tells me this type of weird stuff. Like, well, what type of people you know? And so for me, it was just like, why do I have these? Why is everything so heavy? Why is everything
yeah.
so?
Are you
You
an empath?
I, I hate to say it, but I think I am. I'm a little less empathic because I'm not as. I've become a little. I've tried over the past. I tried to turn it off, so
Yeah.
I
Or
can't.
set up stronger boundaries.
Huh?
Or set up stronger
Yes,
boundaries.
yes, yes. And so I think, I've had people tell me that I'm an empath. I'm resistant to accepting it, but perhaps,
Yes, it can be a double-edged sword.
yeah. So, but I, I I think this is one of those things that now that I've answered the call, it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done with my life. And
Oh, that's wonderful.
I couldn't see myself doing anything and getting a better experience, a better return on my time investment, my spiritual investment, and just my energetic exchange. So
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love it. Love it. Love it.
That is really, really great. Now, I found as I was reading through some stuff, it says, what is regression based therapy? Is that something that hypnotists do too?
Yeah. Regression therapy is basically going back in time to uncover and heal something, a difficulty or a challenge. I do my regression therapy. Well, I do it a little differently now. I used to, when I first started, and in the earlier years of my doing hypnotherapy, I would do a regression session. And I was in a session once, it took me like 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Very, very taxing. And
Yeah.
what I found is that sometimes the regression work that I was doing could be triggering or re traumatizing. So I
Yeah.
like doing that. So I have a different way of helping people heal those difficult emotions, and we don't have to go back and re-experience them.
Oh,
And
that's good.
do something like it, but we don't go back through the re-experiencing. We just find the 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 circumstances around what makes us feel a particular way. We deal with those feelings, and then we release and resolve them.
I like that. It sounds like it's a lot of less triggering and
Right. I don't re-traumatize people anymore. So I've gotten better in that aspect too. And so we can sit down and build up a session that kind of mirrors regression, but we don't go back to every particular instance. So what regression would look like is, once I get you in hypnotic state, and I would count maybe 3, 2, 1. Okay, I would tell you. So I make a suggestion. When I count backwards from 3 to 1, you'll be at the earliest time you can remember having the experience of X. And then I go 3, 2, 1. Okay, now you're there. All right. First impressions, day or night, inside or out, alone or with someone, hot or cold, So I'm asking
yeah.
these things and I'm firing them off. And then once they answer all those, okay, what's going on? Somebody might say, well, um, I'm outside playing with friends and a car drive, whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
so once we get to that part, we keep going back further and further and further. And it's like a onesie, twosie type thing where you go from instance to instance to instance. And depending on, how far back it goes and how many sensitizing experiences the individual have, this could take quite some time. And then
Yeah.
again, like I said, it can be re-triggering if, when you get to the point and you see what's happening, and if it's a strong enough or difficult enough emotion, then boom, there you are reliving it. And so I do it differently now. We don't have to go one by one by one. We can deal with how you feel about particular things, and we could kind of create a little orb around a particular emotion and pull out the different feelings around that emotion that make you feel like maybe you're stuck in that particular space. And then we go back and we release and resolve that stuff.
Oh,
And then,
that's really interesting. That's
Mhm.
really interesting. Yeah. I think that would be helpful because I know, like, for me, I've thought about hypnosis before because I have a lot of memories that I don't remember. And not all because they were traumatic, but like I don't remember a lot of like my childhood happy memories either. I
Yeah,
just have, and from my mental illness, a lot of it creates memory loss. So I've always wanted to go back and just kind of, just remember some of the things that, and happy, some of the happy things too.
yeah. So I look at mental health as being on a sliding scale, right? And what I mean by that, and I think I wrote that in my book as well. We all have the potential for things that are considered to be mental illness.
Oh, definitely. I agree.
So, for instance, someone experiencing psychosis is hearing and seeing things that aren't part of conceptual reality or what
Yeah.
everyone else would experience, right? But we all have the potential for that because
Mm-hmm.
we all hear things in our heads and
Yep.
we all make pictures in our minds.
Yep.
But the difference between someone who is experiencing psychosis is they don't know the difference between whether it's happening within them or whether it's actually happening outside in the actual world and what we call
Yeah.
sensual reality. And so, It's just, some of the programming is kind of askew, but we all have the potential for it. Just like depression, the root, or it starts from just basic sadness. And we all experience sadness from time
Hmm.
to time. But over a period of time, when it becomes clinical, meaning it's interfering with how you experience and work through your normal day, and giving you challenges that prevent you from being able to get through your day normally, now we have a clinical requirement, or a clinical issue that requires us to work on it clinically. But
Yeah.
again, you go from levels of sadness to, deep sadness to depression, and then depression could even go beyond depression into some other things. And
Yeah.
so with all of the so-called mental illnesses, right, there's a potential for that, and some are a little more intense than others. But it's all part of us. We all have the potential for that. And so there are things
Definitely.
we do, with regard to mental health. Like anxiety is one of my biggest. I love helping people with anxiety because you never know that you can feel better about things.
Yeah.
Young lady that I worked with a couple of days ago, with her anxiety, she was so shocked. She was like, "Wow, I didn't know. Like my thoughts just race and race, and I try to go to bed at night, but as soon as I lay my head down, these thoughts start coming, and they won't
Oh
allow me to go to sleep." And I said,
gosh, yeah, I know that one.
yeah. And so we look at, okay, well, what's going on? What are you feeling? Well, all of the different. So we pull out as many of the intricate settings or feelings or points of interest in that space of what's going on with you. And that's what we target in the session and ask your subconscious mind to do a reset on, to release and resolve. And so some people practice a type of hypnosis where I call it crowbar hypnosis, where they're
Okay.
just going to crowbar in a fix. They're going to keep repeating suggestions over and over and over. And it might take them 3 or 4 sessions, but eventually, they crowbarring it in, and you'll eventually accept the suggestion at some
Yeah.
point. I don't do that, because that's not an intuitive way of working. So I
Yeah.
work in concert with the subconscious. And so I ask, can we resolve and release that experience, those memories, those feelings? And I'll get a response, what we call idiomotor responses, where
Oh, okay.
I have the fingers, and I'll say, I'll make it respond through your fingers. And so when the subconscious is responding in that way, that's a lot more organic versus me crowbarring. You're going to
Yeah.
be rich. You're going to be rich, or whatever the case. So I do something that's a lot more organic, a lot more easily flowing and natural.
Yeah. Sounds very less invasive.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, and excuse me, sorry. Where do you see yourself going with this journey in the next 5 years with it all?
Oh man, I see big things. I see big things. Maybe even so. I'm connected with a few people. One such individual. He and I are hypnotherapists, and we do a lot together. We're going to be doing a podcast ourselves,
Oh,
and
great.
so that's in the works. But we are also considering teaching a course together and starting our own hypnosis organization.
Wow.
We're considering that, and I see myself. I'm also a speaker, so I do speeches and stuff. So I talk on this subject, the subject of the mind. So
Yeah.
I see myself traveling internationally, speaking, lecturing, giving workshops, as well as continuing to do my therapy. I see it getting very big, and I will also find a way to do what I call philanthropic work. Um, because I know that there are communities and groups of people who need the help,
Oh yeah,
not be able to afford my services.
definitely.
And so I'll have an arm of what I do that will be able to go into communities or maybe community organizations and help those people as well. Because I think everyone deserves access to the best.
Oh yeah,
And you can't, you know, again, hypnosis is about helping you become the best version of yourself. So in a lot of these different circles where you have gurus that they talk kind of this conceptually and in space about how to do certain things, I'm saying with hypnosis invariably, this is okay, you want to do something specific, this is how. Like, I'm not saying shift your energy. Like, I'm not telling you
yeah,
shift their energy because that's kind of vague. That's not very clear. Oh, how do you shift your energy? Well, I can tell you how to shift your energy. If you come in and we do hypnosis, what we're going to do is we're going to find the things that are using up a lot of your mental and your emotional energy.
yeah,
We're going to release that. We're going to reprogram you to have better experiences, think and feel differently. And as a result, that's going to shift and up level your energy and sustain you. So this is like, I'm not talking out in space and woo woo. Like, I'm being very specific. Like,
yeah,
this will shift your energy, or this, you know, I'm very clear. Like, this isn't woo woo. This isn't talking out in space. We do specific things to look for specific results. And then after the session, we'll check in. So prior to the session, we're going to calibrate
okay.
things that I like to know during the calibration.
Yeah, because
How,
excuse, sorry to interrupt you, but I was just thinking. So this is more of like a journey as opposed to like a one-stop shop. Like I couldn't right now just be like, "Hey, can you hypnotize me real quick?" It wouldn't really work that way.
I could hypnotize you, but yeah,
Oh,
we we would have to do so. Hypnosis isn't a quick. So I said I had sessions that go 2 hours, right? Okay, so my sessions typically range about 45 minutes to an hour.
okay.
So I've cut my session time from 90 minutes to 2 hours to about just under an hour.
Uh-huh.
Right. So it's not necessarily a quick thing because we have to talk, understand what we're doing, and figure out the direction that we want to take the work. But again, prior to the session, we're going to calibrate. So I'm going to ask you things about, you know, how intense is the feeling? How frequent do you have the feeling? You know, so intensity and frequency are important because let's just say you have a particular experience of maybe feeling sad at least 3 times a day, and the sadness is maybe a 8 or a 9. Well, that's very specific. That's very clear.
Yeah.
So we go in and target that, and then we look back for a week or 2 weeks. I typically give it about a week, but let's just say I waited for 2 weeks and I check back with you and I calibrate and I check in and I say, okay, so how was the sadness? Like, very clear. You should be able to say, well, you know what? I'm still having the sadness 3 times a day at about a 9 or 10. But what happens is people will say, and I had this very thing. That's why I'm using this example. Lady, she said, I get sad every day. I'm constantly depressed. I'm sad all the time. I experience sadness 3 or 4 times a day at about a 9 or 10. I was like, whoa,
Ooh,
it's pretty heavy. And so
that's
we
all the
went in,
sex.
we targeted all of the stuff that she talked about. We resolved and released that stuff. She felt good at the end of the session. You know, again, I didn't know I could feel this good. And I waited about a week and I checked in with her, did the follow up. No, I haven't felt the sadness, but you know, much hasn't been going on. So I haven't, you know, I haven't really, I've only worked 3 days out of 7. And so she started to compensate. And I said, well, hold on a second. When we calibrate it, right? Because I asked her, I said, so is there something in particular that causes the sadness? Do you have to be doing? No, she said, no, the sadness could just be me thinking about myself and then I get sad.
Yeah.
So it's not externally triggered. Primarily, it's everything causes it. And so
Yes.
I said, well, hold on. So when we talked about it, you said that there were numerous triggers that cause the sadness, and that it didn't matter. You would experience the sadness at any time of the day or whatever, at any time, and you're going to have it at least 3 times.
Yeah.
He was like, you know what? You're right. Well, the truth of the matter is, no, I haven't felt the sadness. And I said, well, okay, that's important to think about, right? I said,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
figure that in as a win. And she was like, you know what? You're right. She's like, I don't know why. And I had to remind her, I said, remember when I told you the changes would be so subtle that you might not be aware that you've made the shift. And this is why I ask these specific questions and I calibrate on the front end so that once we go back and look, you're not able to change. You can't say, well, we're not going to do the hokey pokey. You're going to put your left foot in and then take it out and put the other. No,
Yeah.
we'll be very clear on this. And I've had people to come in and do work with me, and they may have had a condition existing 10 years. And then we come in and we do some work, maybe a couple sessions, and then they stop coming. And when I check in, they tell me they fixed it on their own. And it's like, okay. And this has been going on for 10 years. You come see me, and now you're not having the experience anymore, but you did it on your own. So it's but that's why I make sure that I'm clear with people in terms of the subtlety, how the shift happens, and what you can expect, because I know that I've lost clients to, you know, my stuff working so well that they're not clear that they,
Yeah.
or maybe, and I might have been flim flam, like, somebody might, okay, that's all I really wanted to do, and I don't want to keep paying you or whatever, but I'm going to act like I fix it myself. And I know full well that this wasn't something that they just fixed on their own, that this was the work that we did together.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's,
Exactly.
again, that's why I calibrate on the front end, so that when we look at it on the back end, you can have some very clear and present results that speak to what we've done. It's
Yeah.
not kind of woo woo, or we're not just kind of fishing for stuff, but it's very direct. It can be very clear. A lot of
That's
the work that I
interesting.
do is just that clear.
That is really interesting. And how did you decide to get into hypnosis? Like what gained your interest in
That's a funny story.
it?
So I was a skeptic, and I was on somebody's blog reading about it, and they were talking about different things, and I was enjoying the blog, and then my spidey senses were triggered when the person used hypnosis, and I was like, wow, here we go. People talking all the good stuff, and then they throw some BS in. And so I told myself that I was going to discredit this person on their own blog. And so I started just following all of the information, just reading. I put all this energy into trying to discredit someone, and ended up becoming a convert. Um, I went down
That's hilarious.
and got sucked in. And here I am today now, a fully
Well, the
certified.
proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really, really neat and interesting. All right, well, so question, yeah, could you try to hypnotize me right now? How would that work?
Um, I could take you into, so I could show you something that kind of like is what I call the gateway to hypnosis, right?
Okay.
But we would need about 30 minutes or so for me to
Oh
actually
goodness.
take you in. But I can help you approach what I call the gateway, right? So
Okay.
I'll take you through an exercise.
Okay, yeah, take me to
Here's what I want.
do an exercise with me.
All right. So this is an exercise on focus and relaxation, because
Okay.
remember I told you those are the two of the main ingredients that we use in hypnosis, right? So if you
Yes.
can see my hand, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you put your hand up in front of your face like mine is. um, slightly above eye level, just a little, just a couple inches. That's good. And now I want you to focus on the tip of your middle finger, right where your fingernail is, right on the tip. I
Okay.
want you to focus on the tip of that middle finger, okay? And I want you to focus on it. I want you to focus so hard that I want you to try not to blink, all right?
Okay.
In addition to that, I want you to take a nice deep breath and I want you to let it out nice and slowly. And as you exhale, I want you to feel the relaxation coming in your body, in your neck, shoulders, and arms. Focus on the tip of that middle finger now. The tip of the middle finger. Do not allow your eyes to move away from the tip of that middle finger. And as you continue to relax, something is about to happen. Those fingers are going to start spreading wider and wider, further and further apart. Now, your only job is to remain focused on my voice and the tip of that middle finger and relax. And as the relaxation and the focus grows, those fingers spread even further apart now, wider and wider, further and further apart. The more you relax, the better you feel. The more you relax, the better your concentration grows. And those fingers continue to spread wider and wider, further and further apart. There may be some twitching and jerking. You may feel some different experiences, but those fingers will spread as you relax, wider and wider, further and further apart. Just allow them to do what they do. There you go. And they continue to spread wider and wider, further and further apart. The more you relax, the more they spread wider and wider, further and further apart. That's right. You're doing absolutely wonderful as those fingers continue to spread wider and wider, further and further apart. That's it. And so now, and we're done now.
That's
But
really neat.
yeah, so that's the gateway. That's
Yeah.
start with getting the focus. And that's how we start with marrying focus and relaxation together. And so that's just the gateway. So that's a light trance, right? So I expand that even more till I get you right into the sweet spot. And then we actually go in and give the suggestions.
Wow, that's really, really amazing. That's really amazing. So now, if somebody wanted to, well, obviously, if somebody wanted to go through you through the program, how do you have a website now and like online virtual classes or?
So I don't have virtual classes. I've got a couple websites. So if someone wanted to work with me in terms of hypnotherapy, the best way to do so is to reach out to me. I'm Eastern Standard Time, but my number is 404-482-0360.
Okay.
That's the best way to reach out and to schedule an appointment. They could also go to the contact page on RashidEdwards.com. That's RashedEdwards.com. Schedule a session, or you could email me. The email is coach@mentalinfinity.com. Um, those are the best ways to reach me. You can Google me on the internet, and I've got all types of interviews and podcasts of different things that I speak on. And that would be the best way. Now, I think after I finish this class, I may find a way to make it available virtually. Um, and maybe I've not, I'm still on the fence with that because I know
Yeah.
I have to work with someone to make that happen, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
understandable.
yeah, I'm considering that now. But if someone wants to work with me, please reach out. I can guarantee you that you'll have an experience that you've not had before if you're new to hypnosis. And it typically knocks people off their feet. They're really amazed at what's possible. And that's
That's
really what
amazing.
it's about.
It really is amazing. So now, for people, let's say, they aren't able to get in touch with you or anything like that, what is a good way in general? What's the signs of a good hypnotherapist? Like, if you were to be looking for one, what's the signs of a good one?
Well, that's That's hard to say. And I've had some not so good experiences with hypnotists. For me, it's a sign of a good hypnotist is someone who can get me in a workable, a good enough trance to be able to do work.
Okay.
And I say that because a lot of hypnotists, or at least the ones that I've dealt with, they don't establish a good trance state. And so some people kind of do hypnosis where it's just kind of like light meditation, where
Okay.
they'll just take you through an experience where you're visualizing stuff. But the issue is that in order to work on releasing or, doing certain things, you have to be deep enough. And so
Yeah.
just kind of skating along the surface and not going deep, it didn't work for me. And so I do deepeners, and I recommend that all hypnotists do deepeners, because that's the whole point, is that you're trying to get them into a deep enough trance. And so if
Yeah.
you're not deepening, then all you're doing is kind of talking to people while talking to them in a light trance. So, like I said, we have light trances, right? But not all light trances are workable states of, for hypnosis. And so
Yeah.
I do deepeners. I do several different types of deepeners during the process, and I test to make sure that you're where I need you to be. And not only do I test, but during the 17 years, I can read your physiology. So I can tell when your face goes flush, or maybe you might start lacrimating, your eyes might start running, your nose might start running.
Yeah.
You may even start drooling, or your mouth might get dry and you might do a lot of swallowing. Like, I can tell there are different cues and signs that let me know, in addition to my testing. And so
Gotcha.
that's how I would know a good hypnotist. But I don't know how a layperson would be able to, how an average everyday person who's not a hypnotist would be able to tell, because
Yeah, we'd be able to recognize those kind of things. Yeah. Now, is there a what am I trying to say? Is there like a hypnotist association? Like a head. You know how there's like NAMI and there's like different heads of different organizations and medical organizations and stuff like that. Is there a head of one for hypnotists
yeah, there are
or
several of them.
therapy?
There are several of them, right? And different. Here's the thing. Are you in the States or?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in Columbia, Maryland.
Okay, okay. So, um, in the States, right? Typically, each state would have a governing body over different therapeutic modalities.
Okay.
However, as it stands, hypnosis is not regulated by any state governing body. So, hypnotists and hypnosis, they have their guilds or their different organizations. So there's like the National Guild of Hypnotists is one of the big governing bodies. Um, there's also I went to school in HMI at HMI, and they have their own governing body as well. And so it's kind of all over the place because it's not state regulated, which
Hmm.
to some degree I appreciate. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so there are different organizing bodies, and the NGH is the one that I think of right off the top of my head. And I typically can run off three or four of them because there are quite a few. But right now, NGH is all I can think of, and HMI.
All
HMI.
right. Well, that's I'm sure if I Googled it too, they'd all pop up too.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I have to get ready to wrap up. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you feel like we left out any information about hypnotism?
Um, I could talk for days, and so I just leave it there. What I'll say is that, more than anything, I want people to understand that it's a very natural state of mind. And because of that, there's so much that you can do. And I want you to think of the movie Limitless. Um,
Okay.
the guy took a pill, But to some degree, right, hypnosis is like taking that pill. Now, limitless is quite exaggerated, but the point that I take away from it is imagine how it would be if you could be the best version of yourself. And so
Wow.
going through hypnosis and working out different things, it walks you down that path to where you start becoming better and better and a more um, advanced version of what's possible for you.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of hypnosis.
Well, I'm definitely interested in these online classes that you have, so I'll be messaging you
Okay.
because I definitely want to give it a try. I'm trying a little bit of everything. Like right now, I'm going to do this IOP program. I've tried meditation, but that just didn't work for me. But I feel like hypnotism is one that's out there that, and I know it helps with like quitting smoking cigarettes. It helps with lots of other health problems too. So I
Yeah,
think it would be an all around good thing for me.
absolutely. I mean, all of these things are mental and psychological challenges that we're dealing
Yes.
with, right? And hypnosis deals with your mind. And so it helps you deal with those challenges, those mental and psychological challenges.
Yeah, it only makes sense, right? It only makes perfect sense that they would go hand in hand with together. All
Absolutely.
right, well, is there any shout outs or any thank yous you want to give to anybody before we sign off?
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Miss Kiana,
What?
because you made this happen, and a big part of what's important to me is getting this message out. Again, this is my life's work. This is my purpose, and I'm very, very passionate about what I do in helping people. And so, if I'm able to reach one person from your podcast who I can help, it would be a blessing, and it would be advancing my mission. And so, I
Well,
thank
that
you for
that
that.
is wonderful. And so, and on Facebook, it's just Rasheed Edwards, correct?
That's my main page. I have Rasheed.coach.edwards is the other page that I connect with people on. Either of those two.
Okay, good. So they can reach out and connect with you and learn more about everything.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, it was great speaking with you today, Rashid. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was an excellent conversation. I learned so much. I definitely want to do this. It's definitely something that I want to experience. I feel like it would be very helpful for me.
Be my pleasure.
All right. Well, you take care and you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye.
All right, goodbye.
Well, guys, that was Rashid Edwards with um, hypnotist Rashid Edwards talking about hypnosis. Excuse me. It was a really, really, really interesting subject. I'm very, very gung ho about trying to get it done. I think it would help with my anxiety. I think it would help um, with a lot of different things that are going on. So I'm definitely going to look into it. And if anybody else wants any information, just listen back to my podcast where she gave a whole bunch of different information about it. And I'm going to get ready to sign off. Let's talk about it with Q. I'm listening. I want to give my shout outs to Dake Dante at Off the Mats podcast and my good friend Tiana Taylor. And she's on Instagram as Tiana underscore capital lowercase capital T. My I want to give a shout out to my friend Tiana Taylor. That's capital Tiana, lowercase Taylor underscore BJJ. And I just want to say thank you very much, guys, for listening in today. Enjoy the rest of your wonderful day.